Hello, all, and welcome to Sportswire. This time we've got an interesting topic to talk about. This is more on the Chelsea finances and the business side of things, right? Because this is a football club, of course, and we all love Chelsea as a football club, but we also wanted to know a bit about what the financial situation is of the club, how is the club doing financially, who are the members who are responsible for these finances. Those are certain things that we'll probably take a look at today. It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to keep it very simple, not so much of financial jargons. It's just going to be simple. I just wanted to give you a total insight of what Chelsea is doing right now, what Chelsea Football Club is doing right now, and how the organization structure is with respect to Chelsea Football Club. One thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about before we get started with the video is a bit of disclaimer. This is something that is wholly based on my assumption, based on the information available in the internet. All right. I could be wrong. I could be right for most part of it, which I believe I will be. So this is how we're going to take this video forward, right? We'll just talk about the organization structure first. We'll get into the financial side of things next. And we'll talk about the financial position of the club in the third section of the video. Now, talking about Chelsea Football Club as an organization. Before we get into the organization, I just wanted to give you a bit of jargon that you might have to be aware of, right? You'll have to be aware of certain management jargons, and that's what exactly I'm going to talk to you about. The first thing is subsidiary. What is a subsidiary? In short, it's a company that has a holding company or a parent company. The company is independent, but then all its financials, books, and everything is managed by a different company, which will be a holding or a parent company. Those companies are called subsidiary companies. Now, who are parent companies? They are companies who hold these subsidiary companies. Now we know that. Let's probably talk a bit more in detail with how it is relevant to Chelsea Football Club. First thing that we'll have to realize is that Chelsea Football Club is run by Roman Abramovich. That's the most common thing that we all know, right? But how does this transition happen? Like, how does he relate to Chelsea Football Club? Chelsea is controlled by Chelsea PLC Limited. And that Chelsea PLC Limited is basically a subsidiary of Folkestrom Limited. And the Folkestrom Limited's managing partner is Roman Abramovich. So Chelsea PLC Private Limited is one amongst the group of companies that is under the belt of Folkestrom Limited. Having said that, I was able to surf the internet and probably get the reports of the latest financial background of Folkestrom Limited and Chelsea Football Club. By now, I have a good picture and understanding of what the club does and how is it structured and all of that. And I thought, you know what? Why not share that to you as well? So subsidiary is something that we now talked about. And then we'll talk about amortization. Though it is not something that we'll be immediately looking at, maybe further in the video, we'll be talking about amortization as well. Amortization is nothing but whenever you see a deal which is like 90 million, 80 million, 70 million deal that is happening to sign a player or sell a player, usually the buying club or the selling club will not deal with these sort of huge monies in a single year. So they will plan it in such a way that it is spread across a period. And that period could be the length of the contract of the player as well. That's why whenever there is a contract, let's say, for example, Kepa is on a 72 million transfer for a 6-year deal, which means Chelsea probably will have this option of amortizing and paying the club in 6 installments, right? That's called amortization. Now, we know what is an amortization. We know what is subsidiary. We know what is a parent company. We know what is a holding company and all of that. Having said these details, One thing that we have to really understand is that Foxtrum Limited, when they say they own Chelsea Football Club, this is exactly what they mean. Foxtrum Limited has control of not just Chelsea FC PTE Limited. Sorry, I've been pronouncing it as PLC. It's PTE Limited. They have the list of the following companies that they own with respect to Chelsea Football Club: Chelsea FC PLC, Stamford Bridge Projects Limited, Foxtrum Development Limited, the Hotel of Chelsea Limited, Chelsea Football Club Limited, Chelsea Car Parks Limited, Chelsea FC Merchandising Limited, Chelsea FC PTE Limited, Chelsea TV Limited, Chelsea Limited, Chelsea Football Club Women Limited, Under the Bridge Limited, Chelsea Leisure Services Limited, Stamford Bridge Securities Limited. And the nature of business for each of these are different, ranging from being a holding company to a restaurant operation to a dormant to a music venue to a property holding to a car park management system, right? So the nature of business is not the same for all of these companies. But this entire bracket of companies, you can put them as a set, and that set can be called as a group, right? And this group is basically held by Foxtrum Limited, all right? And the class of shareholding is basically ordinary class, where we have three of those being direct and rest of them being indirect. Now, having said that, all these subsidiaries are basically registered in the UK and Wales, except for Chelsea FC PTE Limited, right, which is the footballing side of things. This is basically registered at Singapore, all right? Now we know how Foxtrum Limited is basically controlling Chelsea FC PTE Limited, right? Now let's get into the details as to what basically happens in the organization. What's the hierarchy and all of that? I was able to get this information from the Chelsea website. I'm just going to present my screen and show you guys what I'm exactly talking about in terms of organization hierarchy. It looks nice, looks very detailed. We'll talk about it. There you go. Chelsea FC PLC is the company which owns Chelsea Football Club. Yes, we discussed that. The ultimate parent company of Chelsea FC PLC is Foxtrum Limited, and the ultimate controlling party of Foxtrum Limited is Roman Abramovich. We knew that as well. Now, the board members for Chelsea FC PLC are: chairman would be Bruce Buck, and he's been with the club since 2003 after Roman Abramovich took over. The directors are Marina Granovskaya, Guy Lawrence, Eugene Tenenbaum. So I was actually reading through the financial report, and most of it was signed by Eugene Tenenbaum, which also tells me that he is the person who is responsible for the financial operation of the things. Marina Granovskaya is someone who does the footballing side of things as well, in terms of transfer negotiations and all of that. Guy Lawrence is a chief executive. He's not a director, he's a chief executive. And this is another important person when it comes to players and the footballing operation of things. That is David Barnard. Not a lot of people in the Chelsea community actually know who this guy is. But let's just read through it, right? We'll have a clear picture once we read through it. David joined Chelsea in July 2002. He has overall responsibility for the day-to-day administration of the football department, including transfer agreements and player contracts, ensuring compliance with the relevant football authorities. The rest of the information that is given there, I don't think so that is relevant to what we're talking right now. But that particular thing that is highlighted is what really matters, including transfer agreements and player contracts, ensuring compliance with the relevant football authorities. That doesn't mean that he is the person who's signing players, but he is the person who's doing the things at the background. When I say background, when you negotiate with a player, when you negotiate with a club, and you bring in the player, it doesn't end there. There's a lot of other operational activities that goes into every single transfer. And this person, David Barnard, is the one who's taking care of that. He works on the transfer agreements and player contracts. and ensuring everything is within the compliance. Now we know how the board is basically structured, right? We know who are the people on the board. Bruce Buck, the chairman, David Barnard, director of football operations, Marina Granovskaya, another director. We've got Guy Lawrence, who's the chief executive, and Tenenbaum, director of financial operations. Having said all that, this particular report that I was just looking into is the report that was released on 30th June 2021. So 30th June 2021, that's the report of 2020-21 season. There was a lot of interesting things and important things that I went through. Before getting into the nitty-gritties of it, I just wanted to tell you this particular audit was performed by KPMG LLC. KPMG, they're one amongst the big four firms, and they were the ones who performed the audit for Chelsea during that particular year. Now, we know that as well. Now, let's get into the specifics. Let's get into the details of it. A lot of exciting informations I found when I was reading through the report. Now, for any club, there must be an income stream and an expenditure stream. So for Chelsea Football Club, the income stream is broadly classified into three types. The first one would be match day revenue. The second one would be broadcasting. The third one is commercial income. We'll get into the details of that and see how much have we generated in terms of incomes to that. But as of now, we'll just know that those are the three income streams for the club. And we talked about income, and the next thing would be expenditures. So the expenditures is something that is most closely associated with match day activities. The match day activities can be including tickets, ticket sales, anything with respect to player travel. All of these are expenditures. All right. Having said that, now we know what is the income and the expenditure of any club by definition. I know you're excited to look at the numbers as well. And this is the number that I was able to get for you guys. So first thing is, in terms of employees, the wages, the social security cost, and the pension cost together, an aggregate number gets you the employees total cost. Okay. So 2020, we paid 287,051,000 for the employees, compared to 2021, where we had to pay 334,387,000. There's a bit of increase there in terms of our expenditure where we had to pay the employees. And apart from that, there is a director's remuneration as well. So all of these directors, they take a part of the, so for their service that they're offering, they will have remuneration, right? And that is as well added to it. So that's in terms of how much we pay to the players. And you would be kind of impressed in the way that the club is run in this aspect of things, where the match going fans who contribute to the ticketing side of things, you absolutely would love to know what is that you bring in to the club, right? And I was able to get that number as well and compare that against the broadcasting and sponsors. Let me get you the number real quick. These are the numbers. In terms of turnover alone, it's broadly classified into broadcasting, commercial, and match day. And the broadcasting revenue for the year 2021 is 273,606,000, compared to that of 182,546,000 in the previous year, 2020. Now, this means that in terms of broadcasting, there has been an increase in revenue. Now, the commercial revenue. This is something that is associated with the sponsors and how you generate revenue out of the sponsors. So that's your commercial revenue. And the commercial revenue is 155,383,000 in the year 2021, compared to that of 174 1,867,000. Here is somewhere we've taken a bit of hit because again these sponsors did not sponsor a lot because they also had this impact during the disease hit. Now, when it comes to match day revenue, this is where we took a major hit because most of the games, if you remember, during the 2020-21 season, were played in a closed door environment. So the match day revenue in the year 2021 is 7,654,000 compared to that of 54,469,000 in the year 2020. This is almost an 8-fold revenue loss just based on only the match day revenue, right? Could be ticket sales, shirt sales. That's the turnover. Apart from that, there are a lot of other incomes as well. Could be due to players' sales. Once we've sold the player, we could have been getting amortized income. So I'm going to read you the strategic report that we have with us, which was actually published by Tenenbaum and was audited by KPMG. So I'm just going to quickly read through it, and you will fairly have an idea as to what the financial situation of the club currently is. The director presents the annual report comprising the strategic report and the director's report and audited financial statements of Forstrom Limited and its subsidiary undertakings for the year ended 30 June 2021. The results for the year, in summary, is that the net loss for the year after taxation was £166.4 million compared to that of a profit of £39.3 million in the year 2020. Now that's a worrying sign. Yes, there was different reasons for it, which we'll quickly explore right now. But then we ended 2020 on a high note, and 2021 we have a loss of £166.4 million. Now, fair review of the business. Profit and loss. The loss for the year before taxation was pounds 166.4 million compared to the profit of 39.3 million pound for the previous year. A loss of revenue caused by the majority of 2020 or 21 matches taking place behind closed doors because of the disease, as well as the decreased profit on player sales and increased player amortization, were the principal reasons for this movement. This year saw an overall increase in the turnover from 411.9 million to 436.6 million, driven by an increase in broadcasting revenue. So in terms of broadcasting revenue, we saw that there was an increase, and that's what they're saying. This was due to the amounts being carry forwarded from 2019-20 season into 2020-21 financial year. So that was also due to the money being carry forwarded to the next year, caused by the late finish of 2019-20 Premier League season in July 2020. That year, they finished the games later, right? So those games was also added in the financial report of this year. That's why you're seeing a bit of increase there. This increase in broadcasting revenue was offset by reductions to the match day and commercial revenue streams caused by the disease, resulting in the majority of the matches in the 2020-21 Premier League season taking place behind closed doors. So they're saying there was an increase in the broadcasting rights, but then that was basically offset. When they say offset, it's basically balanced by the loss that we incurred due to match day revenues, a reduction in the match day revenues. Now they're talking about match day revenues in detail. Match day revenue fell by 46.8 million to 7.7 million compared to the prior year. That's a huge loss. The majority of the games were played behind closed doors, but 3 home games, which is 2 in the league and 1 in the Champions League, took place in front of a reduced capacity crowd. For these behind closed door games, there was a complete loss of ticket and other match day revenue. Overall broadcasting revenue increased by 91.1 million to 273.6 million compared to the prior year. So there's a twofold increase here, from 91.1 million to 273.6 million. Let's see what that is got to do with it? Like, how did that twofold increase come into picture? It goes on to say that the club saw an increase in revenue relating to the UEFA Champions League success within the year, coupled with an increase in the revenue as a result of 10 matches relating to 2019-20 competitions being played at the start of the season of the 2020-21 financial year, as domestic and European broadcast revenue is recognized at the time of the matches that are played. So basically, that's what we talked about, right? Certain matches were postponed by a month or two, and then they had to happen later in the year. And with respect to European competitions, when you get the revenue, as and when you play the matches, that is when you get the revenue. So basically, this is being added to the next year's revenue. That is why whatever revenue that should have been cultivated in the year 2019-20 came into picture of the 2021. The fall in commercial revenue of 19.5 million to 155.4 million was driven by the effects of the closure of non-match day activities for the majority of the year due to lockdown restrictions, decreased preseason revenue, and a decrease in the player loan fee income. Now, we're talking about commercial revenue here, purely commercial revenue. Usually it used to be 155.4 million, but this year it was 19.5 million. A drastic reduce, close to 1/8 reduction in the commercial revenue that we usually get. And the factors that they are attributing that to are, the majority of the year was because of the lockdown. They were not able to do any non-match day events. So non-match day events is pretty much like doing a fan talk, going to the public and talking with the fans, trying to understand their perspective, creating shows, ballrooms, all these public events. All these contribute fundraisers, creating these sort of events. All these together was the contribution for that 155.4 million. But now that has gone down because of the lockdown to 19.5 million. That's a huge loss. Like I told you, it's a 1/8 of the usual revenue that comes through commercial revenue being lost. The impact of the disease on revenue was partially offset by reduced match day costs due to the matches taking place behind closed doors throughout the year. Overall, pre-exceptional operating expenses of 594.1 million have increased by 51.5 million compared with 542.6 million in the previous year. This was principally because of the increased staff cost, 47.3 million, player amortization, 34.5 million, and offset by match savings. So pre-exceptional operating expenses. Operating expenses is nothing but the day-to-day expenses that you do for the club. It could be your Cobham training ground, pitch maintenance, starting from the basics of that to paying your wages for the players, to paying your wages for the staff that are working in the Chelsea setup. Everything comes under operational expense. And they're saying there was an increase in the expenditure operationally, and that expenditure is a partial contribution because of the wage increase, player amortization values getting increased, and that was also something that had an impact due to the match day savings. Now, the football club made a profit on player trading of 27.9 million in the year 2020. In this particular year. But in 2020, it made a profit of 142.6 million. Now, that's a huge difference, right? The profit on player trading was 27.9 million in 2021, but in 2020, it was 142.6 million. Let's see the reason. Principally due to the sales of Victor Moses to FC Spartak Moscow and Nathan Allen de Sousa to Atletico Mineiro. In addition, the club realized contingent fees in relation to the number of previous transfers. So they're saying that due to the player, being sold out, that's the reason why we were able to make the profit of 27.9 million compared to that of a 2020 release where we had a huge number of release of players which contributed to 142.6 million. Now, Let's slowly get into the other details as well. Again, I'm not going to go into the specifics of every single thing, but then I was quite intrigued to see certain things, and I just wanted to, talk to you guys about it. And there is a paragraph about funding. I thought I should probably read through that for you. Funding is provided by the ultimate controlling party, Mr. R. Abrahamovich. The group has received an increase in funding of 19.9 million during the last financial year. In 2020, repaid net funding of 4.5 million. All right. So what is he trying to say? What they're trying to say here is the controlling party here is Roman Abrahamovich. Yeah, that's clear. They're also saying that 19.9 million was the amount of money that Roman pumped into the club only in the year 2021. So that's a lot of money compared to the previous year, 2020, where it was a fund repayment of 4.5 million. So that's on the funding part of things. So usually when we take financials for a club, these are the events that the board is tracking on a monthly basis. They say the financials are reviewed by the board on a monthly basis, and following are the financials: revenue growth, payroll costs, operating result before player trading and amortization, gains or losses on player trading, player equity costs, compliance with EUFA financial fair play regulations. All of these are being tracked on a monthly basis, and that is being reviewed financially as well. So before we get into any further, I just wanted to make something very clear for everyone who's watching. I know not all of them are from the financial background, so I just wanted to keep it very simple, right? When we talk about assets, yes, of course, players are assets, right? And when we talk about assets, here we talk about two types of assets. One is tangible assets, and the other one is intangible assets. And players come under intangible assets, right? And tangible assets can be a property, things like that. Those are tangible assets. But intangible assets, players come under intangible assets. Now we'll quickly move into other specifics, which I found very quite interesting. There's of course the entire P&L balance sheet. I don't want to get into all the specifics. Neither will that interest you, because we look at the club from a footballing perspective. But it's always nice to know what the financial situation of the club as well is, right? We talked about the revenue, of course. We talked about the turnover. We talked about this is another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention: exceptional items, exceptional administrative expenses. They are nothing but it could be because of player registrations, it could be because of ongoing any legal matters. But this expense has increased tremendously for Chelsea Football Club this season compared to that of the previous one. I'll give you the numbers. Exceptional administrative expenses in the year consists of impairment of player registrations of 17.9 million, and the amounts payable in relation to ongoing legal matters being 24.1 million. These numbers are huge. When you total both of it, 24.1, 17.9 comes close to 42 million, if I'm doing my math right. But that's a huge loss. I'll tell you one thing: we did not have even a single penny in the month of in the year 2020 that contributed to this exceptional administrative expenses. So there is a new legal battle that the club is probably fighting, and there's a lot of money that has to be directed to that. Apart from that, there are other details as well in terms of remuneration. Of course, for the employers, there needs to be remunerations. For the auditors, there needs to be remunerations and all that. So those things as well is happening. Now let's look into the next important thing, right? We're all very fascinated with the players. Let's see how the players are paid, right? So there are three types of player payment: wages and salaries. And this is not just for the players, it could be also for the administrative staffs. Wages and salaries, the first one. The second one is social security cost, and the third one is pension costs. Now let's talk about wages and securities. I'm going to purely talk to you in terms of numbers now. 2021, 292,903,000 is the total money that Chelsea spent on wages and salaries, compared to that of 2020's 252,448,000. Pretty much the same, yes, except for like the 40 million increase this year. And they are attributing this increase in wages and salaries to the new players that were brought in: Kai Havertz, Ben Chilwell, Hakim Ziyech. That's it. So social security costs, 2021 we spent 39,798,000 compared to that of a 32,989,000 in the year 2020. And the pension cost also saw a bit of increase there, 1,686,000 compared to that of 1,614,000. And pension cost is something that systematically increases every single year because the people who gets pension also keep increasing, right? So it's bound to happen. And yes, of course, if there are people who stop receiving pensions also. So in a way, it's a bit balanced, but usually you can expect a bit of increase in pension schemes. Now, the total payment that Chelsea made for its employees in the year 2021 is 334,387,000 compared to that of 287,051,000. There you go. There's a good difference there. 334 is huge than that of a 287. And yeah, again, they're attributing those to new players and new squad members coming in. Of course, they're talking about the taxation next, and tangible fixed assets, something related to that as well. They're also quoting the investment property values right now, the fixed asset investments. Talked about the subsidiaries, of course. Talking about stocks, debtors, creditors, deferred taxation, all of these. It's good. It's good to look at it. Share capital, perfect. So the final part of it is the merchandising side of things, which is more relevant to the commercial value. So in terms of the commercial value, most of it comes through merchandising. So I'm not going to get into the details in terms of numbers, but then these are the contributing factors in terms of merchandising. One is the Chelsea FC Foundation. We are generating value out of that. The second one is Nike Chelsea Merchandising Limited. We're getting money out of that as well. Chelsea Digital Ventures Limited. We're getting money from that as well. So these are the three areas that we are generating revenue in terms of commercial income. And another important point that I wanted to talk to you guys about is that you might ask me, how does Folkestone get its money? So there you go. The answer is mentioned clearly. Camberley International Investments Limited provides funding to Folkestone Limited and its subsidiaries as required to enable the group to continue as a going concern. All right, so there you go. And towards the end, they're talking about the cash in hand and the cash used in group operations and things like that. That is fundamentally on how the club has invested and what is going on with respect to the club's revenue and all of that. It was really looking good in terms of understanding these details for me, because I'm always interested in that. I thought you guys would also benefit to know the situation in the club rather than jumping the gun and ask for players and transfers and everything. Yes, of course, we as a fan, we have every right to do that, but then we also have to be in a position to actually understand the reality of the situation, reality of the club in financial positions and all of that. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. This 2021 financially has not been really good for Chelsea Football Club. We recorded a loss of 166.4 million compared to that of a 39.3 million profit in the previous year. So now you know the reasons why Chelsea is not making so much of transfer moves in the winter transfer window as much as what we would wanted it to, right? We were talking about Theo Hernandez possibility. We're talking about Lucadinha and all these possibilities, right? They're all transfer possibilities. The club is looking at calling or recalling the loan players, probably because of the financial situation of the club. So before we as fans jump the gun and say Chelsea board is not properly functioning, they're not doing any transfer moves, they're not actually contributing to the football, they really don't care about the football, let's just take a step back and try and understand what the financial position of the club currently is in. And let's probably try to support our club during these difficult times in terms of the financial mess, and we'll soon recover from it. And once we recover, I'm pretty sure that Chelsea board will concentrate on increasing the operational profit of the club. That's where I'm going to part ways with you. It's been an interesting discussion. I know it's a bit of monologue, but then I kind of learned a lot with respect to Chelsea Football Club. If you really like the video, please press that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll definitely bring in a lot of contents like this for you guys to know not just the footballing side of Chelsea, but also the other side of Chelsea as well. Stay tuned to the channel for the latest updates.